Morning, friends. It is a very happy occasion to be amongst 1,000+ teachers and teachers who've come from different schools. I hope we get some chance to interact. We did try to start interacting, but on an informal basis. But just this fact that we can organize a major 2-day meet with so many teachers, so that we can share experiences, reflect, and even talk about what is happening, where we want to go. I'm lucky. I've got a title given by the organizers, which says Turning Education Around. So it means that the title is sort of already assuming that there is some need to stop, think, reflect, and turn around. I would like you to think for maybe 30 seconds. If you were given this chance, suppose we were collectively given this chance. Okay, today, tell us what needs to be done so that our education system can turn around. Why do we need to turn around? It means things are not on the right track. And I think some of the discussion before this session also raised these questions before us. But also, what will we need to do when we are turning around? So if you think for just a few seconds, what is it that comes to your mind first if you were given this task? For the whole system, not just my classroom or students that I interact with, or just Tamil Nadu, but maybe for the whole system. What is it that comes to your mind immediately? And if there are some people who can loudly say out what comes to their mind, it would help us. I'm sorry. Can someone help me? I can't hear. Change the exam pattern, I heard that. What else? Change the curriculum. Yes, change, but change to what? So we'll need to think. Integrating everything, life skills and values. Okay, important things. We must try and understand what is life skills and also values. What kind of values? Anything else? Not rote learning. Is that right? Okay. Anything else? Anyone agitated by any other change that we want to bring in? The rigidity of the system, to change that. One more thing came from here. Sorry. Recruitment procedures for the entire education system. Right. There was something here which I couldn't catch. If you can somehow convey it, it'll help. But covering the lessons within a time limit. Okay, that's a challenge. But then the whole question is, okay, who sets the time limit and who sets the coverage or the lessons? But if anything else comes to your mind, please feel free to stop me and say it. But I think a large sort of spectrum is right before us. And I would also like you to think a little more about some things which were said before us, and which, if we look back at our own education system and the way it was planned, the way the education system for an independent India was planned, and for a free India, what was that vision of freedom? What was the vision of an independent India? And also, what was the vision of education? Bringing in values, someone said. Which values? Constitutional values. We were reminded of equity and justice and secularism. And, so where does that come in? And democracy? Does it come in? Does it sort of, do we even think that education and democracy are linked? So in our classrooms, in the school and beyond, these are the values that we have been reminded by our own nation builders and people who had a vision. In fact, what's interesting is that people who were deciding the first few education policy documents, the commission reports, were people who were not necessarily working within the traditional systems of education. They were actually thinking of the nation on a larger scale and then thinking of how education really relates to that vision for a nation. Have we somehow forgotten that? Or have we, in our own tracks, when we've gone on a certain track of thinking of quality, of thinking of education, of thinking of what we really want our children to be doing, are we really thinking of me and my education and my job and my family, or are we still in our schools, in our systems, thinking of what the country means to me, my community? Because that makes a major difference. Why I'm saying that is, just as I said, when we think of, if we are given this freedom and this opportunity to turn education around, the first thing is we think of a purpose. We'll be able to chart a course when we know where we want to go. What is that goal before us? And if that goal is correct, we will somehow manage to move there. And countries, and this doesn't happen in 1 year or 2 years or even 5 years. I mean, there are countries who have done it in 15 years. Today, countries which are known to be giving the best quality education, and maybe I'll ask you for something that comes to your mind immediately, which could be those countries? Is there anything comes to your mind? The countries which are known to be really having high quality education. Any names? This is not a quiz. China. India. Okay. Singapore. Japan. Finland. So some names have come before us. India has come. Do we really think we are giving the best quality education? Seriously, hand on our hearts. Quality in terms of what? Biggest question. What do we think is quality? Because only then can we decide that we are giving very good quality education. By giving, I mean we're not giving something, but we are providing, we are allowing, we are enabling. Because the problem with us is we think education is giving. You know, we just give information, we cover something, we cover a textbook, we give some information. We think we can even give knowledge. Unfortunately, we cannot. To young children, there's no question of giving knowledge. Knowledge has to be constructed by the child, by every learner herself. And I think that is a problem. We've very long thought, even as teachers and teacher educators, I go as a teacher educator in a teacher education program to see how people are performing as teachers. And very often our lenses are very narrow. We are only looking at, is this teacher, is her voice okay? Is she talking properly? Is she involving people? Is she writing in a neat handwriting? We are only looking at the teacher. It doesn't matter what's happening, what else is happening in the classroom. That cannot be a learning classroom. Does she keep discipline? What does discipline mean? Our own commission reports, and that's why I'm sort of turning around to see what was that vision. The Mudaliar Commission, the Education Commission report, actually has a major section when they talk about things like patriotism. What does it mean to be caring for your country? It has things like discipline. And it says that discipline doesn't come by enforcing rules. So as a teacher, do I think discipline is keeping my class quiet, pin drop silence, having rules? You've come late, this is the rule. You'll be fined if you speak in Tamil. Many schools do that. We had a morning song in praise of Tamil. But do we have Tamil medium in our schools? Why not? Does it mean educationally that I'd start teaching in English medium in LKG? Does that mean that is going to produce the best learner? Who told me that? Research doesn't tell me that. Experience doesn't tell me that. So where have we gone? What policies? What does discipline mean? Our committee report said that when children work together, when we give them much more responsibility, and the classroom is really group work. It's not children sitting in a regimented position listening, but it's children working on something, creating knowledge. And that came from the model of Nai Talim and basic education, which was the vision for our national system of education. You must be familiar with that. And the basic thing about that vision was that education is through life, for life. That was the motto, education through life, for life. What does that mean? Is that very different from what we are doing today? And that meant that a certain craft, a certain productive work was chosen. Some productive work is chosen. It can be pottery, it can be carpentry, it can be weaving, it can be working in agriculture. And through that, all education is sort of, the child is constructing knowledge. Today, we don't believe in that. So I'm just saying that this was a vision, that it's working together. Schools which were running as Nai Talim schools had children who were running a dispensary, had children who were running a ration shop, had children who were working out together for the community, for the village. And so there was a close link with the community and people around you, and what becomes important for me becomes important for the school. And they said that when children are working together, that is the notion of discipline. They learn, they will devise rules. Suppose someone is faulting at something, the children can devise their rules. What will you do if I come late, that it will make me conscious about not coming late? Will you impose something on me so that I just feel threatened? Or is it going to be something which I feel involved in devising those kinds of rules? Even today, I can say proudly that the school which is attached to my department in my university, the CIE Basic Experimental School, it was meant to be a model basic school, even though today it may not be exactly in the way that basic schools were thought of, because it's got a part of this system. But children in class 1 and 2 make their own rules. What should we do? What should we do if someone is absent too much? And they know why someone is absent too much. What is the reason? Is someone ill there? What should we do if someone doesn't bring her notebook to school? They make their rules. They never ask in a classroom, they never ask, may I come in? They don't ask. Because it's their classroom. Why should they ask the teacher? Does this sound very odd? This is a school, not an elite school, not with parents who are very rich, but parents who are from all kinds of backgrounds, normally from poor families around in the school, in the campus. We are worried that it is becoming a school in which the very rich or the very elite are not coming. We are worried because the basic school was meant to be a school which was a mixed school. The countries that you have listed, Finland, country which has been talked of in the last few years as the country which is really exceeding in all ways of performance for all children, not just a few. Any kinds of assessments that you might do, and we are wary of these assessments which rank people, which create a race, which create a competition, because that's not good learning. That doesn't create good learners. And you know that better. You know that when children are really under pressure to get marks and perform and get ranks, they can't really perform very well. Finland has no exams. Finland does not fail children. They think it's really criminal to be detaining children in a class. They think it's the responsibility of the system to make sure that children learn well and perform well. So detaining a child is really detrimental to any good learning. And Finland, almost half their children, before they finish, say class 8, elementary school, more than half the children have been through support programs, not remedial, because remedial is a word which stigmatizes. It tells me that there was a problem with me, there's an illness, and so you're giving me a remedy. But if you give me enrichment and you give me support, everyone is happy about it. So more than half their children go through supports, all kinds of supports in the school. So there is no stigma that so-and-so is a slow learner, so-and-so is a fast learner. They don't do that. And they have found that this is absolutely crucial for their system, for children, all of them to perform well. And by the time they finish class 10, they find that the performance of children has no correlation with their socio-economic background. And that is called a system where actually there is equality of outcomes. That is, everyone is learning and performing well and has nothing to do, how she does not have anything to do with her parents' caste or her parents' income or her religion or anything like that. You know that in India that happens. You know that better than I do. That all children who are dropping out, actually being pushed out, that more than half our children don't really complete 10 years of education learning well. In fact, the Right to Education Act came in because more than half our children were not completing even 8 years of education. So we said it's the right of the child to learn, and it's our duty to make sure that they're all learning well. That was not happening. So how can we say that our country provides good quality education? On what parameter can we say that? And we are not being patriotic in any way if we don't seriously look at what are the problems with our country? What are the problems with our education system? What are the problems with my own school? And this is what Mudaliar Commission said very, very beautifully. They said that if we are being very jingoistic and we say, oh, my country the best, Mera Desh Mahan, you know, my country the best, they say this is not good patriotism, or this is not really a concern for the country. And they said only when children and teachers can collectively actually think of what is it that we need to do and what is it that we are not doing really well, that we will actually make our school system sensitive, reflective. So even though we can say that we are exporting food to so many countries today, is that really our vision? Because half our children are severely malnourished. So that's not the full story that we are exporting. Can we pat ourselves on our back, as was pointed out? How can a country and how can a system flourish when more than half our children are severely malnourished? How can a malnourished child sit in a classroom? And how can learning happen? Any learning, because that needs the biggest challenge. So I think the questions that we have asked, and I just want to say one thing. British system runs, in fact, a whole course on citizenship education when they are supposed to understand what is good about the country, how do we understand our country. And just about 2-3 years back, there was a research done by the Institute of Education in London. And they said that children 14 years old are saying that don't teach us like this. Don't teach us. Don't tell us that how great a country we are. Don't teach us this subject. Children 14 years were saying that we want to be able to reflect and say that if our country had done something differently in 1947, things may have been very different in South Asia. They are saying that what's happening in India and Pakistan could be very different if also the British action at that time had been different. They are saying this, and they're saying, so let us allow us to think like this. Isn't this interesting? Isn't it interesting that a country which is saying, or a curriculum which is saying that we really need to be doing citizenship education, the children and teachers are telling us, don't do it like this. Don't tell me, my country the best. Let me think critically. Let me think historically. Let me try and understand and be equally confident in trying to say that my country could have done something wrong then. In fact, there are countries which have been perennially at war, Japan and Korea. Their educationists are sitting together to say, can we have a history curriculum which is written from a shared perspective? Because every country thinks that they were wronged by the other country, and that creates more conflict, and that creates more suspicion. Can we do this? Why not? So I'm just trying to say that some of our own commission reports had at that time told us that, education needs to address things for this nation, for a nation building purpose. And at that time told us that we really need to be conscious and sensitive about this. They had told us that if we think that we are going to buy good education, and these are the words used in Kothari Commission also. If we think we can buy good quality education by sending our child to an elite private school, then we are wrong, because we are buying anemic education. Because unless children study together, make friends together, make friends from different religions, from different socio-economic backgrounds, which is happening more and more, it's happening less today. I mean, what was happening in 20 years back, today we don't have public spaces where children from different backgrounds are actually sharing friendships, sharing playing together and understanding each other. That's not happening. Our government school system has got totally segregated. The poorest in one kind of school and the better sort of endowed in another kind of school. When the Right to Education Act came, everyone said, yes, we need this act. We need an act which says that we are not going to select children for admission. We're not going to make any selection, not going to make any competitive selection for 8 years at least, like all those countries have done, which today are recognized as good quality countries. Even Japan, for many years, was completely rooted in a system of equity. Teachers believed that children all could learn well. So this is what the Right to Education said. Why? Because we know that there is selection happening everywhere, even for the Kendriya Vidyalaya, even for the Navodaya Vidyalaya, even for the Pratibha Vikas Vidyalaya, which says that there is some talent and you select it and only then you nurture it. That is what, there's a model of such schools, government schools in Delhi. We take a test, we say, oh, you're very good, okay, now you come into this school. So why did this act today remind us that we are on the wrong track? It told us we need to turn around. Did we understand why this was being said? In fact, so much research shows this is true. So much research shows that children don't learn on the basis of what we call competence or ability. As teachers, we often use this word. We often use this word. But children learn on the basis of motivation, persistence, and belief in themselves. Where does that belief in themselves come, and how does the school or how does the teacher give them that belief? So I think when we are doing this turning around, and I'm glad that many people felt that there were many things that need to be rethought, especially the examination system, as some teachers were even telling us earlier. And teachers were telling us that this unified curriculum, many teachers that we spoke to informally said, this is very dilute, it's not very good. It's, it doesn't go in depth. But I just happened to look at some textbooks that are the new textbooks that are being used in Tamil Nadu, and I was quite surprised at what is being done in science in class 6, or what is being expected to be done in maths in class 6. I mean, I don't even think all those things, all those names, that jargon, that terminology, that definition, I don't think that's required for a child age 6, age 11 or age 12, grade 6. And we seem to say that that's less, that that's diluted. I think we really need to sit together and talk and rethink and reflect, and also look outside, look outwards. What is the way that those countries which really get all children to perform well, and not performing through competitive testing, because that does not let all children. There is enough research to tell us that the more competitive a test, it's only the social advantage which comes out, not your real ability to learn. So what are we doing? So I'm glad that we can think about education to be turning around. There is enough now today known, even in terms of not just policy rhetoric, but in terms of research and evidence, in terms of how countries have been doing these things, even in our own country. where a certain kind of system, a certain kind of pedagogy was adopted, even in our own state, some places we have seen, or our own exam systems, but we are not ready to learn from that. And I would be really sort of happy if this organization, if teachers could sit, reflect on some of those things and chart their own course in a more democratic manner. Even tell the state governments, even tell the boards that, you know, we are not there for you to just make policies, but we are also there and we are ready to participate in this. Thank you.